Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers are two of the most exciting young fantasy assets in the NFL, but their high draft costs could cause disappointment. We dig into the top 3 storylines for the Las Vegas Raiders entering 2025 on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Today, we are discussing the top 3 storylines for the Las Vegas Raiders entering this season. And they made it super exciting right off the bat by drafting Ashton Jeanty in the first round. And we're all excited about the opportunity he will have in that backfield because he has such little competition. However, you have to pay up for it. He's going as the running back 4 off the board right now. And then you have Brock Bowers, who had a fantastic rookie season at tight end. Absolutely amazing. Broke many records. But again, you have to pay for it. He's going as the top tight end off the board and 16th overall among all players. And then you have a kind of confusing wide receiver core that we have to get through and a new quarterback in town in Geno Smith. Can he come back to fantasy relevance with a new team and new weapons? These are all things we'll be discussing today. Let's start with Ashton Jeanty. And I want to ask you, Vinny, is he being overhyped coming, in his first year in the NFL? Because right now he's ranked behind only Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, and Jahmyr Gibbs among running backs. That's a hefty cost for a rookie that we've never seen in the NFL. Now, we've seen plenty of great rookie running back seasons, so I don't want to say it's not possible, but we are drafting him extremely high if you want to have him.
Yeah, I don't think that you could do any kind of underhype with this. I mean, it doesn't get higher than this. You really couldn't go past those 3 guys you're talking about. I mean, this is it. I mean, he's jumped Derrick Henry. I mean, I don't know if that takes him to a whole new level of hype, but it probably does. And I was looking at how to justify Ashton Jeanty being worthy of that cost. Now, some of these guys with the anomaly of Barkley and Gibbs, they shot past 5 yards a carry, right? That doesn't usually happen with these backs. We saw Jamal Charles do it consistently for some of his big seasons with the Chiefs. But looking back, I mean, there's some environment that says he can. LaShawn McCoy and Carlos Hyde have had some big years in the Chip Kelly offense going way back to his NFL days with the Eagles and 49ers. This is the first time he's actually, however, calling plays without being the head coach. And we know the head coach is going to have some influence on how much the Raiders run the ball because it's Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll likes the running game and pounding it and going back to Marshawn Lynch and all that stuff with the beast mode. He wants to run the ball effectively. Now, that means you're going to have to get 320 to 350 touches for Ashton Jeanty to make this work. Now, why is 350 important? Well, you do 17 games. If you do the math, that's about 20 touches per game, right? So can he get 20 touches per game? Now you're in business, right, to potentially get those points that we're looking for. And the elite backs to finish that high is around 18 points per game. Now you add in a few catches, but when you look at the straight up numbers of that, that's averaging basically 120 yards from scrimmage and a TD every week to get to 18 points. So do you think he can do that in the Raiders offense? That's a question. I think he can. It's very expensive. He's going to have to really have all those targets that are gone at running back fall in line here. He's going to have to stay healthy. There's a lot of things that are going here, but I think the environment of Carroll and Kelly tell you that all these signs are pointing there, and also they don't have a lot, right? They've seen Zamir White. He hasn't done all that much. Raheem Mostert is in his late 30s. He's not going to do anything. He's not a third down back. He's just a guy right there to give them a warm body in an offense that they're familiar with. So I just see Jeanty getting there. I don't think you're going to get any value, however. You're going to need to have all the volume come in. You're going to have all the expectations. He's going to have to live up to his talent. live up to his volume. Everything's going to have to be just right for him to hit that number right away and feel confident about it.
I really, really like Ashton Jeanty. And if you want to take him
Yeah.
at running back 4, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. But like what he did in college, it cannot be overstated. He was absolutely amazing, especially this last year when he averaged 186 rushing yards per game, most in the FBS by nearly 50 rushing yards per game. It was the second most in a single season in the FBS since at least 2000. Only LaDainian Tomlinson averaged more rushing yards per game in a single season in college. That was in 2000 with 189 rushing yards per game, was the 5th overall pick with the Chargers, right? They instantly gave him 398 touches his rookie year. But guess he was a running back 8 in points per game. That's because it's just harder to be as efficient in the NFL than college, right? He put up 1,600 scrimmage yards, 10 scrimmage touchdowns. That's the big thing here, right? Is how many touchdowns are there to go around in this Raiders offense? And when you there have been amazing running backs to come out and just not put up running back 4 production. I mean, just think about Bijan Robinson a couple years ago. How good was he in school, right? And we were so hyped saying maybe he should even be the top running back off the board. And he was fine, right? But he had to split some work with Tyler Algier, and it took until his second season to truly break out into that top 3 running back. It's just it's a little pricey. It's risky, and there's not much upside at all if you're taking him there.
Yeah, and you think about some guys that were really effective last year, seeing the ball quite a bit. I mean, you have Derrick Henry right behind him. You have Jonathan Taylor, who was very effective with his volume restored and his health, and you had Josh Jacobs. So there are a lot of better values there right after. I think this is just, again, you don't get any value going after a player this high because, again, he has to really come through. And again, it's a rookie. We haven't seen it. And it's not like going back in the day, taking people a while back, but Edgerrin James, when he was with the Colts, like he was in a great situation. We know that offense was going to be explosive with Peyton Manning as a rookie, so that made a lot of sense. But this is also the Raiders' offense. It's brand new. They've blown it up. They have a new quarterback. They're getting a new coaching style and philosophy overall with their team. Like, how much can Jeanty hold up? He had to change some of his running style, some of the way he wants to approach it. So again, the key for him is going to be those receptions, I think, to get to the touches necessary to get there. Now, could he get them? Absolutely, because it's Carroll and Kelly. But again, don't expect, oh, I'm going to get a steal. You're not going to get a steal unless he drops him out to running back 8 or 9 before the draft, and that's not going to happen if his number is still going up.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have much competition, right? He's going to get the touches. Yeah. And also last year, Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah combined for 95 targets last season. And we know Pete Carroll loves to run the ball. Like, he's going to get plenty of touches. It just comes down to the cost and if you feel good about that, and he can come through. I mean, we've seen, Alvin Kamara and Kareem Hunt finishes running back 4 and 5 in 2017. Barkley finishes running back 2 in points per game in 2018. We saw Najee finishes running back 4 recently. We saw Devin Achane finish as running back 4 in points per game in 2023. Like, it's not to say it can't happen. He can come through. It's just going to be very hard to really make that big of a difference when you're taking him that high. Now, Brock Bowers, on the same hand as Ashton Jeanty, he is going extremely high in drafts after his fantastic rookie season where he put up almost 1,200 receiving yards, got a ton of targets, but targets could be harder for him to come by this season. And there could be that sophomore slump like we saw from Sam Laporta last year and Kyle Pitts, in his whole career after his great first year. So let's discuss Brock Bowers and if we're willing to pay that price after we take a quick break and hear from one of our sponsors.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by reunited. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet reunited Ready. Reunited Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, reunied's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. It's completely online. It's going to be easy for you as Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. If you don't want to just take my word for it, you can read all the brilliant customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment and getting them Rugiet ready. That's Rugiet.com where you'll find this. Rugiet.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONFL or the /LOCKEDONFL and you'll get 15% off today. That's Rugiet, R-U-G-I-E-T. That's R-U-G-I-E-T. Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use the promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for more safety information. All right, Michelle, let's get to the rookie that we know that came through last year. Brock Bowers, he had a big year. I was a little skeptical, but then the whole Devontae Adams trade went down, and that was it. He took off from there. He was already pretty good as a target here, but this was a different situation. We had different quarterbacks, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, all that. Now it's a new offense, a new quarterback, Geno Smith, new philosophy here with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. Does this mean good or bad things for Brock Bowers? Is he a sophomore stud or sophomore slump?
So I'm not too concerned, I should say, about him being the first tight end off the board. Personally, I much prefer George Kittle, but if you want Brock Bowers to be the first tight end drafted, that's okay with me where he's being ranked. The bigger issue is where he's going overall, and he's going 16th overall in drafts and ahead of guys like Drake London and AJ Brown and Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving. I cannot draft him there because he had 153 targets last year. That's great. And he had fine production with that, with 10.7 yards per reception. Nothing like spectacular, but it's doable for a tight end. Nearly 1,200 yards. That's fantastic, especially for a rookie tight end. Only 5 touchdowns. You would expect that to be able to go up with Geno Smith and better quarterbacks. But I don't think he's so much of a difference maker in terms of the production to be worth that cost when you can get other guys cheaper. Like Sam Laporta is cheaper. And Bowers last year averaged 12.1 points per game. But I do think Sam Laporta is going to average around the 11.5 points per game that we've been seeing from him consistently over his first 2 years. And I just don't think that 0.5 points per game, let's say if Bowers does the same thing again, is worth paying up for Bowers that much more than a guy like Sam Laporta. And I am worried that the new wide receiver core, the new guys they added, will eat into his targets as well.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is going to be more diversification of the targets. I mean, Jeanty is going to be a big part of that out of the backfield. The receivers are going to be a big part of that. We know they like to spread it around. I mean, that's the nature of the Chip Kelly offense. That's why it's called a spread, and getting some more people involved. And Geno Smith is definitely comfortable spreading the ball around. And again, that's another thing we have to consider. Is Geno going to be on the same kind of security blanket level with Bowers, or is he going to prefer Jacoby Myers and feel the most comfort level with him as the go-to guy? So there's all kind of factors that we look at. But Michelle's absolutely right on just the cost. I mean, when we were looking at guys in the past, Rob Gronkowski, Travis Kelce, when they were in their smash seasons, right, and they were putting up numbers parallel that can give you such a huge advantage with their scoring, their reception volume, acting like elite wide receivers, yeah, you had an edge, right, to take that tight end early. But when there are other tight ends kind of stacked up right where he's there, I mean, you mentioned George Kittle. He's actually ranked ahead in some cases over Brock Bowers. These are talking about 70 overall players, somewhere there in terms of the scoring. And there's not that much difference, right? There's no guarantee Brock Bowers is going to finish that much ahead of Kittle or Trey McBride or Mark Andrews rebounds. You look at Laporta, who Michelle mentioned. There's just so many guys that could really close the gap at tight end where you're not getting that big advantage. So really, as Michelle pointed out, not about where you're looking at him at tight end. He's fine, right? If you want to take him anywhere in the top 3 at that position, totally fine. It just might be, hey, don't jump on a tight end where you can get a starting very high-end RB2 or a very good wide receiver 1. Like, that's a big opportunity cost that you're giving up here when the tight end is not such a disparity as you think. I mean, there's still a lot of good values at this position. It's because it's also the situation that's kind of reloaded itself, right? There's better tight end landscape overall that you can find a value and find someone there that you don't have to bang the table, get Brock Bowers early. You're not going to get yourself an edge. What you're going to do, however, is you're going to hurt yourself in those other positions where you're going to look at the combination of people I got and I said, oh, I wish I had that running back or wide receiver and that tight end later versus taking the hype on Bowers.
Yeah, this is the duo that you can have. You can either have Brock Bowers and then, where Sam Laporta is going, you got your Xavier Worthies or your Jameson Williams, right? So let's say Brock Bowers and Xavier Worthy or Sam Laporta and AJ Brown. Like, I just think that's a no-brainer to me that which one would you rather have? It's just not that big of a difference between these two. It's just too pricey. If I'm going to pay up for a guy that's very expensive at tight end because George Kittle's not going far behind him, I do think George Kittle can be that insane difference maker type of year because we have a reason to believe Kittle's targets should increase this year. We don't have that for Bowers, and Kittle's been so good on such limited targets. I mean, Kittle had less than 100 targets last year, and Bowers had 153. And the thing is, Kittle put up the same production as Bowers. So if I'm going to pay up for a guy, it's going to be Kittle, who I think could be a massive difference maker at the position, not a guy that's going to do what, the other guys do as well. Now let's talk about this wide receiver core that we think could eat into some targets here from Bowers. So they still have Jakobi Meyers, who might be a great value in drafts. He's sitting at wide receiver 39 rank. He was wide receiver 23 in average scoring last year. He missed 2 games, but I mean, he was very, very productive, especially after the first 2 weeks of the season. He was very involved. From weeks 3 through 18, he averaged 12.3 or 12.4 points per game. Wide receiver 20 on average in that span. That was the same as Devonta Smith, and more points than guys like Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Jerry Jeudy during that span. So I do think he's being overlooked. And then you have Jack Bech, who they drafted in the 2nd round. Dante Thornton Jr., who they drafted in the 4th round. He's getting all the buzz right now in camp or in the offseason program. And then Trey Tucker, 3rd rounder. We don't really care about him. But if you had to take a shot on one of these wide receivers, you have Bech going at wide receiver 74, Dante Thornton Jr. not going undrafted, and Jakobi Meyers at wide receiver 39. Who are you looking to take a shot on here?
Yeah, I think it has to be Myers still because that's a lot of guys that are going to competing with each other for those targets. And I mentioned there's not a lot of vacated targets here at wide receiver overall on this team, 61. So when you look at it, it's going to be more status quo with what we saw. It's a different type of offense because Jakobi Meyers obviously was brought in with the mind of Josh McDaniels and the Patriots connection there. But then he got away from McDaniels and produced really well down the stretch when they needed him without Devontae Adams. So again, if they were disappointed in Myers and Bowers combination, I think they would have been a little bit more aggressive. I think they liked Beck, but now if they have to have a competition with him and Thornton and the inexperience shows up there, then I think they'll be very limited to them. But I do see a lot of balls going to Myers and Bowers basically being the top 2 targets on this team, and everyone else kind of fighting for that next spot on the outside. I just don't see all of a sudden the Raiders creating that opportunity because, first of all, we know they want to be run heavy with Carroll and Kelly. So I think it's fine. We are okay with them only supporting 2 targets here with Myers. Again, he gets open all over the field. He started doing some scoring, which he never did in New England. He's not the biggest scorer, but I think he has more potential there than we think. So I do like Myers. He's grounded himself into a good spot here. I mean, that's ridiculous to drop him 16 spots from last year. He's just too kind of polished as a receiver. I know everyone doesn't think of him as a name, and he's not the most exciting, but he's going to run good routes. He's going to get open for Geno Smith, much like Bowers in the middle of the field. I don't see this offense necessarily being a very aggressive, push it downfield. I think they're going to more pick their spots with that situation, be more short to intermediate routes with Geno.
Yeah, and the thing with Myers is if we expect Bowers to score more touchdowns, and that's why he's going, you have to expect that if he's going that early in drafts, right? You can't just score 5 again and be worth that draft pick. Then we should expect the same thing for Myers, right? If you think Geno Smith can increase the scoring in this offense and Pete Carroll and, the better coaching staff. So he only had 4 touchdowns last year and still put up really good production. So I'm with you. And if I'm taking a shot on one of these rookies, it's still definitely Jack Bech. I know right now all of the all the news is like Dante Thornton Jr. is over him and doing better. Yeah, this dude is 6'5", 205 pounds of 4.3 speed. Like, yes, in shorts right now and, mini camps, he's going to thrive. This is his skill set. He's going to thrive in that area. There's a reason he couldn't thrive in college, right? Now, he was great yards per catch, but he still only had 661 yards at Tennessee in his fourth season and 13 games played. It's like, if he couldn't dominate in college, let's relax. He's going to be good in shorts with that ability. I'm not buying into that hype at all. It's still Jack Besh if you want to buy into a rookie here. Now let's talk about Geno Smith, because he has a lot of weapons now that we've talked about. He has a new team. He's back with Pete Carroll, where he had a good fantasy season with a few years ago. So is he capable of another top 12 fantasy quarterback season? We'll get into that right after a quick break. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by the Game Time app. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. I use them all the time, especially right now during baseball season. I love to just, randomly decide I want to go to a baseball game in any given week. And the reason I use the Game Time app is because I know they're going to be the cheapest tickets available, but also that the app is just so easy to use. I'm a very impatient person, but it takes seconds to buy tickets on that app. Two taps and you're set. You get to see a panorama view of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And they have the best ticket coverage in the business in case anything goes wrong. You get to take the worries and the guessing work out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Right now, Geno Smith is the quarterback 25 in ranking. So very, very low. He's going between Michael Penix Jr. and Sam Darnold, too. Sam Darnold took Geno Smith's job in Seattle. But, the Raiders went out and traded for Geno Smith. Pete Carroll clearly said he wanted his guy in Geno Smith. This is who they went out and got. Last year, Smith was the quarterback 16 in average in fantasy points per game. But, even at quarterback 16, it was a really, really you were not happy with that. 15.6 points per game. In 2023, he's a quarterback 22. And then he had his big year in 2022 at quarterback 9. That's when he had Dave Canales. He threw his 30 passing touchdowns, by far the most in his career. We've seen his touchdown percentage rate drop significantly over the last 2 years since that 2022 season. But with all of his playmakers, in Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty and Jacoby Myers and the rookies we just talked about, do you think he can have another 30 touchdown season and be a top 12 guy again?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult because I think they do want to have an emphasis on the ground game. And if we think Ashton Jeanty is going to finish that high, he's going to have to do a lot of scoring himself for the season. Like, I don't think we could have both happen. Both events are correlated. So I don't think you're going to have that potential here for Geno Smith to get that high. Now, can he finish well above where he's ranked? Absolutely. At QB 25, I think it's a little bit low. I actually like him better in a lot of ways than Penix and Darnold because of a couple reasons. It's the Pete Carroll familiarity and leading the offense. You have two good targets and a running game that's going to open things up. Plus, I know Geno Smith didn't play with Chip Kelly, but Geno Smith has experience in this style of offense. So I think he can definitely execute. We've also seen some ridiculous seasons in the Chip Kelly offense, like a Nick Foles, then on the ground. I don't think this is going to happen, like a Colin Kaepernick running. I don't see that, but I think you can see the blend of those two things where Geno can run a little bit. And keep in mind, when he was that high QB, he ran and gave him a little bit of numbers to pad the stats there. I mean, he had 366 rushing yards that year. Last year was actually not bad, 272, but he needs to get like that number, about 300 yards rushing, and has to hit that 30 touchdown mark from a couple years ago. Now, he has a potential, but I just think he's much too low here as that ranking is because, again, Penix is unproven. Darnold is going to a new situation, a team in transition in Seattle with a different style of passing game and weapons here, where Geno's kind of inheriting 2 established weapons here and getting a third in Jeanty. So I say he's going to finish higher than that. I do like him a lot in super flex and 2 QB leagues to be that second QB, obviously to start and get some decent plug and play returns. Like just put him in your lineup. You'll probably be okay with it as your second QB in more weeks than not. I could definitely see him somewhere in the 27 to 28 touchdown range for sure. And then again, we'll see about the rushing. I just don't see the numbers being that big enough without just some really elite weapons. I think he has 2, but if he had a third or fourth weapon there, I think I'd really feel good about it. But some of the youngsters, again, might limit his upside a little bit.
Yeah, my thing is, in a 1 quarterback league, I'm not even gonna worry about Geno
Yeah.
Smith. He can be a streamer type of guy in waivers. But if you're in a 2 quarterback league, super flex league, I do think he's a solid value because instead of taking Jordan Love or CJ Stroud or Tua Tagovailoa earlier, I do think Geno Smith has the same upside as them, downside as them. So I'll just wait. Geno Smith doesn't have as sexy of a name as those guys, right? But it just comes down to the production. I think he could put up the same production as them. So I think in a 2 quarterback league, he could be a really solid value as quarterback 2. And I would like Geno Smith and Sam Darnold are going back to back, which is funny, right? Because Darnold took his spot in Seattle. But I would much rather take a shot on Geno Smith and Sam Darnold because honestly, Smith's weapons are better right now. And I just trust Smith more as a passer and not to make as many. I mean, he makes a lot of stupid mistakes, but not as many as Sam Darnold. So, again, 1 quarterback leagues, no. 2 quarterback leagues, sure. I think he's a good value. But that will be it for today's show. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and news never stop. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Vinnie and I will be back with you on Monday. And starting back in July, we will be back 5 days a week. So we still have a few more teams to get through here in our series. We will get through all of them. I hope you all have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Bye, y'all.